for a year and pay less than 71 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/digital to get your free 30 days of the Manila Times Digital Edition.
We are optimistic about the direction our industry is going amid the pandemic. Since the beginning, we have proven that we are resilient as a community. And we, together with the government, the private sector, and other stakeholders, are able to work collaboratively to accomplish our goals.
This year has brought us to unexpectedly tough battles at sea. Some dreams have been cancelled and hope has somehow remained stranded. Yet despite these pressing times, we continue to serve with sea of opportunities. We continue to break barriers. We continue to cross the boundaries. And we continue to sail forward. Year 1960, when the selfless service and commitment were initiated by the master seafarer, mariner, and visionary, the late Captain Gregorio S. Oca. It was 60 years ago when Captain Oca established the Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines to champion the welfare and rights of the Filipino seafarers around the globe. In the 6 decades since its inception, AMSUP has grown to become the largest seafarers union in the country, receiving various recognitions in the Philippines and beyond. Anchored in its mission to serve the Filipino seafarers all over the world, AMSUP continues to labor to fight for the social, legal, and moral rights of its members. The organization continues to envision the expansion of health benefits among the members and their families throughout the archipelago through the Seamen's Hospital. Aside from the non-stop modernization program of the hospitals in Cebu, Iloilo, Davao, Dagupan, and Manila, AMSUP continues to provide the well-deserved social and legal benefits among its members through the Provident Fund, Welfare and Mutual Benefit Plan, AMSUP Legal Services, Seamen's Village, Slop Chest, and Sailor's Home. The organization continues to improve not only the services they provide, but also improves the abilities and talents of our seafarers and cadets through the AMSUP Seamen's Training Centers and the Maritime Academy of Asia and the Pacific.
We pay homage to the seafarers who continue to embark on the high seas to provide for their families and to move the world's economy, despite the daunting challenges brought about by the pandemic.
The world may have stopped, but your work continues. You, our dear Filipino seafarers, remain our heroes amid the pandemic. 60 years is more than just a number. It is indeed the face of every Filipino seafarer over the years. 60 years may have been full of accomplishments of unstoppable commitment and services. But more than the achievements is your story. Stories that are more worthy than diamonds and gold combined.
To our members and all the seafarers across the world, we at AMSUP appreciate and value you. We are grateful for you and the work you do, your hard work and sacrifice. As we reach our 60th year since our founder, Captain Gregorio Oca, established AMSUP, we still uphold our mission to serve you and to champion your rights and welfare.
Nais ko rin magpasalamat sa ating mga magdalaga, sa ating mga membro. Napakalaking tulong po dahil sa galing ninyo, ay tayo ngayon ang palaging hinahanap ng mga ship owners at ating mga social partners. Let us pledge that we will continue giving the best that we can to ensure that AMOSUP will continue to grow and continue to develop and continue to ensure that our economy and the nation will improve.
We are more than an organization. We are family. Our commitment to you continues beyond our mission and vision. May we all come out stronger and sail forward in hope and solidarity after this adversity.
Dito sa AMOSUP, walang humpay ang pagkilala at pasasalamat sa bawat marinero at marinerang Pilipino. Mabuhay ang Pilipinong mandaragat.
Ang inyong kwento ang nagpapatibay sa ating organisasyon. Ang inyong tagumpay ay aming inspirasyon. Kayo ang AMOSUP. Happy 60th anniversary, Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines. Isang malaking pagkilala at pasasalamat sa bawat Pilipinong mandaragat.
pwelas ang silanganan, alam ng puso sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manduluti, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong buhaw. May dalagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang kisap ng wataw at lu'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magniningning. Lupa ng araw ng walhating konsulta, huwag langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga atis na pumatay ng dahil sa'yo.
where we discuss the domestic shipping industry. Moderator for today. And with me, co-moderating with me, is Peter Conrad Karim, the Manila Times business editor. Hi, Conrad. Are we seeing headwinds or tailwinds in today's business?
We are so far so good as far as the Philippine economy is concerned. Last week, or rather this week, the NEDA reported that our economy grew by 8.3%, and that's rather impressive because that beat expectations. Also, the stock market has been trading at a rather narrow band, so that means there's no volatility among investors. And lastly, there was a price rollback of diesel fuel yesterday, and that's quite good news for us who are driving cars. Yeah, so I mean, I don't see anything really big that's negative over the short term insofar as the economy is concerned.
Now, that's great. Well, speaking of headwinds and tailwinds, our topic for today has its roots very much in sails and seas, particularly our archipelago. Conrad, what do you think about what historians say about our seafaring and trading heritage, even from pre-Hispanic times?
Yeah, I think what I've read is that the barangay actually was derived from the word balangay, which means, I mean, these are the ships that I think the natives used in transporting goods and people. And this was also the basis for transporting communities between the islands. And during the Spanish times, we were one of the centers of the galleon trade. In fact, I mean, I think I recall they call it the Manila Acapulco trade, something like that. So that means that we are an archipelagic country. So that means we should not really be surprised that the movement of people between the islands have been through, through ships and boats. And we are strategically located in the South China Sea. I mean, we were touted before as a transshipment point for international trade. And I think that's still the case today.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you that seafaring tradition certainly carries on with Filipinos being renowned as among perhaps the finest seamen the world has to offer. But what's the shipping news in terms of business in the Philippines in this, especially in this ongoing pandemic?
Yeah, well, I mean, the pandemic really hurt the seafaring industry. Let's face that, because a lot of, the transportation of goods was really went down. I mean, through shipping routes, and the cruise industry, the luxury cruise industry, also suffered a lot of, a lot of blows. And thousands of Filipinos were already employed in the luxury cruise industry even before the pandemic. But now we are seeing a revival of the world economy, and China is actually leading the revival or the recovery of the world economy. And as we all know, China is the world's largest factory. They host lots of factories, and that means that the shipment of goods to and from China will continue or will increase. And that's a lot of, I think the trade between US and China alone is in the billions of dollars, hundreds of billions. So that means we will see a revival of the shipping industry over the short term, and of course, especially over the long term.
Now, that's a lot of dollars. I came across this information on a 2021 Maritime Transport Review done by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. According to them, about over 80% of the volume of global trade transported across oceans and seas is being done, and that's even a higher percentage for developing countries. So it's no surprise that it's very key to have that kind of ascendancy at sea, or supremacy even, if you want to say, and to be able to apply the latest technologies and tactics in terms of maritime efficiencies. And this will allow or help us, especially our country, to change the game and become not just one of the followers, but perhaps one of the instigators or innovators in the field of maritime. So this is why, as you would agree, our online business forum today has been titled Sea Power, the Game Changer.
Yeah, and explain how being a sea power can be a game changer. Our retired Admiral Robert Aruga Emperad, the Maritime Industry Authority Administrator. We also have Attorney Asuncion de los Santos from the Philippine Ports Authority.
Yes.
And Dan Paulo Fernan, 2Go Group Incorporated Vice President and Head of Sea Solutions, and Mark Anthony Francis Pargod, the Philippine Liner Shipping Association President.
So welcome everyone. Thank you for being a part of today's forum, and thank you for allowing us to tap you as our speakers on Manila Times Online Business Forum titled Sea Power, the Game Changer.
Yes, welcome. Incidentally, our forum today won't be possible without the welcome support of our special partner, the Associated Maritime Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines, or AMOSUP. I've been hearing of this organization way back, ever since I was a maritime reporter in the 1990s. So damn. So, of course, our organization partners are the British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the French Chamber of Commerce and Industry in the Philippines, the Davao Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or DCCCII, the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, or FINEX, the Italian Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines, or ICCPI, the Management Association of the Philippines, or MAP, the Nordic Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy, and She Talks Peace. And of course, our media partner is the Manila Times TV.
Manila Times TV. Yes, thank you, forum partners.
Okay, indeed, the Manila Times is grateful to all of you for setting sail with us, so to speak. Now it's time to chart the course for Sea Power, the Game Changer, with our first keynote speaker.
So our first speaker is a proud member of the Philippine Military Academy, or PMA, Sing Tala class of 1986. Aside from the formal education he acquired from PMA, he also studied other specialized courses from other countries, including the U.S. Naval Staff Course at the U.S. Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, and in the Senior Strategic Leadership Program at the Defense Academy of Shrivenham in the UK, among others. Now, a month after his retirement from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, he was sworn into office by President Rodrigo Duterte himself as the Maritime Industry Authority, or Marine Administrator, on March 3, 2022. And this is just right when the pandemics, basically when all the lockdowns struck. So a lot of the efforts of the government to be able to mitigate this was in part also thanks to the efforts of our next speaker. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Robert Empedrad. Robert, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Doc Fort, and thank you very much for that very generous introduction. I'm humbled by your introduction. And of course, I'd like to express my gratitude to Manila Times for allowing me to be a guest in this webinar forum entitled Sea Power, the Game Changer. So I'm going to present a brief that was taken out from the Maritime Industry Development Plan 2028. This is a collaboration between the marina and the stakeholders, and they came out with what are really the problems as far as our domestic shipping industry is concerned. So I entitled my brief as the domestic shipping industry, its current challenges and way forward. Next slide, please. So these are the current challenges facing the domestic shipping industry right now. And and you can see here that the core problem is the inefficiency of domestic sea transport system in the country. This is very sad, considering that we are an archipelagic nation, as you said a while ago, and we have 7,600 islands. And to have an inefficient transport system is not good for the economy, because if you have better or efficient transport system in the maritime sector, then the prices of commodities should go down if we have this. And we found out that there are, what are the causes of the problem, or what causes the core problem of inefficiency in the domestic sea transport system. One is that the presence of aging fleet. So our ships are old, and it's not modernized, so it only shows the capacity of our domestic trade players to provide new ships. So this is one of the problems. We have very old ships in the inventory of our domestic trade. The second problem is the lack of incentive and attractive financing scheme for stakeholders. Some of our ship owners are getting loans from foreign countries instead of getting loans from our bank here in the country. So they really need the financial support, because when you build ships, you require a lot of funding, and they don't get that much incentive from our country, and so they get their funds, their loans from other countries. So that's another problem. And then another problem is the passenger traffic and port congestion. I think the issue here is we fail to provide additional routes that will reduce the congestion of port as far as our domestic ships concerned. And not only that, when the ships goes to port, the problem is the infrastructure, the land infrastructure, wherein the van or the container or the cargoes are moved from one place to the other. So that's another problem. And then, of course, the other one is the weak regulatory and supervisory services, which is the burden of the government agencies. Next slide, please. So we came up with a 10-year maritime industry development plan on how to address the inefficiency of the domestic ship. And as I said, this is a collaboration of the Maritime Industry Authority and our stakeholders, as well as the other agencies of governments like PPA, Coast Guard, and those who are involved in maritime industry. So for us to have a safer and a better quality shipping service in the country, these are the strategic plans that need to be addressed. The first one is the modernization and upgrading of domestic vessels. Of course, we have aging fleets, so we need to modernize them so that you give good services to our commuters. And then the other one is how do we provide incentive and financial assistance to stakeholders. So I will be discussing with you later in my presentation. And of course, route rationalization in congested ports. This should be a study or a solution that needs to be discussed by the government agencies like PPA, maritime, in the maritime sector, PPA, Philippine Coast Guard, and also the stakeholders, the ship owners themselves or the players. And then, of course, the improvement of regulatory services as far as the government agencies are concerned. And this is what we are doing in the past. And we will continue to improve our regulatory services in a way to provide a good incentive to our domestic players or the owners of the ship. Next slide, please. So these are what has been put in place by the Marina over the past 2 years. One is the policy on phasing out wooden-hulled ships carrying passengers. You know very well that lots of our incidents or accidents at sea are wooden-hulled ships because they are not safe. So we came up with a policy to modernize or to phase out the wooden hulled ships. And we are still in the transition period. More than 60 of our domestic ships are already, which are all wooden hulled ships, were already converted to a recreational boat, meaning 60% has already been replaced by non-wooden hulled ship. This is nice for our commuters. You provide them good ships, new ships made of non-wooden hulled materials. There are still places that have wooden hulled ships. Why? Because no players are coming up with new ships like aluminum ships or fiberglass ships to replace the wooden hulled ships. The second one is the policy on the importation of passenger ships. Under this policy, Marina imposed restriction on the acquisition of passenger ships, limiting the importation and bareboat chartering of the vessels aged less than 20 years old and more than 500 GT in size, and should be IS class ships. The objective of this policy is to limit the ships that are coming here and have many years in the service already, to make our ships younger or modern as far as the years in the service is concerned. And then the policy on Grand Pioneer status, this has been a policy that we keep on amending to encourage ship owners to provide ships on a particular route. In fact, just recently, the Cocalyong Shipping has bought a brand new ships, and we granted them a pioneer ship of a particular route. So the policy encouraged domestic ship companies to modernize and upgrade their ships by providing incentive to brand new IX class ships to be deployed in major sea routes such as Western and Eastern nautical highways. Actually, some of our ship owners are now acquiring new ships to provide services to major sea routes. So even in the pandemic, some of our players are buying new ships for our domestic trade, and I really welcome their actions on this. Next slide, please. And then, of course, Marina endorsement to the Board of Investment. This is also very important because we can provide incentive, like, for example, the income tax holiday and duty-free importation of brand new IX class ships. So these are one of our measures to encourage ship owners to build new ships for our domestic trade. And then another one is the incentive granted for pioneering status, like 50% in all fees and charges, including the annual tonnage fee for a period of 6 years. So we provide incentives in ships that procure or acquire new ships for major sea routes. So this is on the level of Marina. So we are authorized by government to provide incentive and through policies. And then, of course, the incentive granted for RoRo missionary routes. This is another a policy which provide incentive for vessels that will be deployed in routes with no existing operations. There are still a lot of routes that are not being served by vessels. So we came out with a policy entitled missionary routes or missionary status in order to encourage them to serve a particular route that is not being served. Once they serve the route, then they will be their investment will be protected. No ships will be serving that route other than them for a period of 5 years. And of course, a discount of the ATF. The annual tonnage fee is being collected by Marina for ship owners, and we can exempt them for a period of 1 year if they provide missionary status or missionary vessel to a particular route. We can even increase these incentives as we see it necessary. Next slide, please. And then just recently, we had an engagement with the Development Bank of the Philippines, including the ship owners themselves, for a MOA with them to provide more loan packages to our ship owners. One of the examples that the ship owners is asking us is for a bank in the Philippines to provide a long-term loans with them, because apparently the bank in our country only provide them 15 years of loan packages. What they are asking is 25 years, more extended, and good incentive as far as loans are concerned. So we are going to sign a memorandum of agreement with the DBP, so that they are now willing to provide long-term loan packages to our ship owners as far as long as 25 years loan packages. So this will be a good incentive to our ship owners who wants to acquire ships and provide ships to our routes that need to be served. Now, next slide, from 2020 to 2022, these are the routes that were open during the past 2 years. Even at the time of pandemics, the ship owners served or opened the routes and served and provide ships for this particular number of routes. In 2020, we opened 6 routes, and 2021 it increased further to 11, even though it's pandemic. And for this year, we have 2 routes that was opened for a total of 19 routes in all. Next slide, please. And then we have the implementation of the Maritime Route Rationalization and Information System, or what we call MARIS. This is a completed project of Marina, funded by the DOST and developed by the University of the Philippines, that will estimate the number of vessels required per route down by a route capacity measurement system. It identifies the number of possible trips, occupancy, and perceived profitability of the fleet in a selected route. This is a way of identifying how do we rationalize a particular route that is about to be opened by our domestic players in the country. Next slide, please. Then, of course, the delegation of supervisory and regulatory functions to MRO. Before, all the ship owners goes to the central office in Manila or in Marina to apply for their licenses. This is no longer applicable because I delegated all the regulatory functions of the Marina to the regional office. So hindi na pupunta yung ship owners sa Marina, kundi they just go to the Marina Regional Office and apply for their licenses. In the future, we are going to make it automated. We see in the future that ship owners can now apply online. We'll make it fully automated, can now apply online, and even the inspection can be done online. And they don't need to come to Marina to get their licenses. They can print their licenses online, QR coded. So that's the vision of Marina. So we will limit the engagement of our personnel with the stakeholders by making all the procedures, process, and systems in Marina automated. And then what the Marina Central Office will do is just to do oversight of the regulatory function that was delegated to the MROs. So we will inspect them if what they are doing is in accordance with policies implemented or that was provided by the Marina Central Office. And then, of course, the blockchain-enabled automated certification system, as we continue continue to push for automation of all the things that we are doing, all the processes and the application of licenses. We need, of course, to protect them by allowing our system to be blockchain protected. So we this year, the president approves our, last year, the president approved the budget of almost 60 million to ensure that our processes in marine are protected with blockchain. Next slide, please. So just some of the special permits issued on domestic ship owners after Typhoon Odette. Ang ginawa po namin is we have to provide to issue special permits so that those who are affected by typhoon will be served by other ships from the other regions. So these are the number of ships that we provided with special permits. This is post Typhoon Odette. Next slide, please. And then for our way forward, we should be able to provide other incentives such as the following. We will try to amend the RA 9295, restoring the 12% VAT exemption on importation of ships. And then the amendment of train law exempting the domestic shipping companies on the excise tax of their fuel consumed by stakeholders during its operation. Because you know that 50% of the operational cost of our domestic shippers is fuel. So ang mahal ng kanilang fuel, so alaki ng gastos nila pagdating sa operational costs, and when there are increases in the prices of fuel, affected sila. So I hope that we will be able to push for the removal of the excise tax as far as fuel is concerned for our domestic ship. And then you know that the president already signed the Public Service Act allowing 100% ownership from foreign to serve our domestic trade. Na-approve na ito, but we will use this as an opportunity for our domestic ship player to be competitive. What we are going to do is to come up with the IRR. For example, the IRR wherein the foreign players, when they serve our domestic trade, they should be registered with the Philippine flag. Meaning, when they are coming here, the crew will be manned by Filipino seafarers. So it's an opportunity. You generate employment for our seafarers. And if they are registered with our Philippine flag, whenever they are going to undergo repair, they should do the repair in our shipyards. So you increase the profitability of our shipbuilding capability or domestic shipbuilding in our country. You generate employment, and while they are here in the country doing some repairs, they get their logistics in the domestic market. So it's really good for our country. At the same time, we should come up with incentive to our domestic players so that they can compete with foreign ship owners that will be serving our domestic trade. So we will use the PSA as an opportunity and advantage instead of thinking that PSA is not will put a dent on the profitability of our domestic ship owners. And then, of course, the vessel retirement replacement program, we need to act on this to avoid our ship aging in the future. So we came up with a policy on this effect. So next slide, please. So this is just a thought from me. I believe that a vibrant maritime industry anchored on highly competitive domestic shipping industry bodes well to the economic progress of our country. So thank you for listening to my presentation. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Okay, thank you very much for that very informative presentation, Mr. Robert. Now, in terms of your presentation, we will be having a cargo hold of questions that we will be fielding to you right after the three speakers. And let me introduce you, all of you now, to our second speaker. Attorney Maria Asuncion Himbing de los Santos is presently the Port Operations and Services Department Manager of the Philippine Ports Authority, or the PPA. She took a BS Management course at the University of the Philippines in the Visayas, graduating in 1985 before proceeding to taking her Bachelor of Laws at the San Beda College of Law, graduating in 1990. A year later, she passed the bar exams. In 1995, she took a professional shipping course at Norwegian Shipping Academy and has been with the PPA since 2004. To all attendees, let me present to you Attorney De Los Santos. And Attorney De Los Santos, the screen is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Conrad. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Can you hear me, Conrad?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you
You're
very
clear.
Yeah, very clearly, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Conrad, for the very kind introduction. So to all the participants and stakeholders present in this virtual forum today, good morning to the organizer, the Manila Times. It is both an honor and privilege for the PPA to report in this forum its accomplishments and ongoing projects as we transition to the new administration in a little over 30 days from now. So my presentation for today covers four major aspects of PPA's mandate. That would be PPA's operations in the new normal, its policies and issuances, the safety, health, and travel protocols in place, and PPA's digital initiatives. Since the Duterte administration took charge on June 30th, 2016, the PPA, through the leadership of our GM, Attorney J. Santiago, and DOTR Secretary Arthur P. Tugade, was able to complete a total of 245 seaport development and improvement projects worth 19.87 billion. These ports form part of the 585 port projects completed under the Build Bid program of the current administration. Before his term ends in 44 days, the President, together with DOTR and PPA, are set to inaugurate at least 14 more completed port projects. Among these completed projects is the Port of Corimao expansion and construction of Port Operations Building, which was completed in November 2021 for the amount of 492 million. These projects were completed to provide connectivity and mobility at the northwestern coast of the Ilocos region, including the Batanes Group of island for regular travelers, traders, and fisher folks, and at the same time, address the demands of the international cruise tourism market. With the projects already completed, they have eliminated the use of pontoons in transferring tourists from the ship and back, while providing bigger and convenient passenger terminal buildings for the travelers. Batangas Port, which is one of the busiest ports in the country, will have a bigger and more sophisticated PTB building after integrating two of its PTBs, which was completed early this year. It has now a combined capacity of 4,000 passengers at any given time. And with our port operator partner, Asian Terminals Incorporated, phases 1 and 2 of the PTB project is set to be inaugurated middle of June. On the other hand, the Port of Bulan in Sorsogon will provide an alternative route going to Batangas and Mindanao via Masbate, Cebu, Bohol, and Camiguin. The project was completed in August 2021 for 119 million. The fourth completed project was the Port of Legazpi in Albay, which was completed in March 2021 for 154.7 million. This project is expected to boost the operational capacity of the port as it can now handle bigger vessels compared to its capacity 6 years ago. The last port project in Luzon is the Port of Tabaco rehabilitation and upgrading, which was completed also in March 2021 for 192 million. The project is expected to be an alternative port outside of Legazpi, as well as to serve as the main converging point and passage for goods, ro-ro cargoes, and passengers bound to and from the island province of Catanduanes. In the Visayas, up for inauguration are 4 ports. These are the ports of Basiao in Capiz, which was completed in June 2021 for 60.4 million. And the improvement is expected to provide enough facility to handle marine products from Capiz, which is considered as the seafood capital of the Philippines. There is also the Port of Banago in Bacolod, Negros Occidental, which was completed also in June for 363.46 million. The port is expected to provide alternative facilities and complement the nearby private port, which is Bredco. The Port of Baybay rehabilitation project, on the other hand, in Leyte, was completed in March also last year for 118.33 million. The project is expected to benefit travelers and traders to and from Cebu and Bohol, as the port can now offer better facilities and can handle bigger and larger vessels against the facilities prior to 2016. While the Palumpon Port Development Project, which is also in Leyte, was completed late November of 2021 for 122.19 million. The much-needed facelift for the port, particularly with the influx of passengers going to the famous Kalangaman Island. It also offers trips to and from mainland Cebu. In Mindanao, 5 projects are scheduled to be inaugurated. The first one is the Osamis Port Improvement Project in Misamis Occidental, which was completed in September 2021 for 177.95 million. This project addresses congestion and the need for better passage facility for port users bound for Iligan, Cagayan de Oro, and other adjacent areas in the Misamis Oriental region. The second one is the Sultan Naga Dimapuro Port Expansion Project, which was completed in October 2021 for 204 million. The port will serve passengers and cargoes from the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. The Port of Mati Improvement Project in Davao Oriental, on the other hand, was completed in January of 2021 for 75 million, and among the cargoes passing through the port include corn, copra, logs, and general cargoes. In Zamboanga del Norte, 2 projects are up for inauguration. These are the Port of the Pitan RC Pier Extension, which was completed in July 2021 for 68.77 million, and the Port of Sindangan RC Pier Extension, which was finished in January last year for 68.36 million. These twin projects are expected to further bring enhanced mobility and connectivity to the Visayas and other parts of Mindanao. So in the first 100 days of the incoming administration, they can immediately inaugurate 7 vital port projects, and 3 of this would be in Luzon, namely the Copinpin Port Expansion Project in Bataan, Tablas Port Expansion Project in Jongan Romblon, and the Balanacan Port Expansion Project in Marinduque. Over in the Visayas, an additional 3 projects are expected to be completed, and this would be the Dubangas Port Expansion Project in Iloilo, Hetafe Port Expansion Project in Bohol, and Maasin Port Expansion Project in Southern Leyte. In Mindanao, the Dapitan Port Development Project in Zamboanga del Norte is also up for inauguration, and the project cost was 322 million. There were only some of the projects that PPA completed in the last 2 years, enabling the country to be responsive to the demands of the local international shipping industry in the short to midterm. And this is not even the most exciting part, as in the next 2 years, PPA is further expected to complete at least 50 more port rehabilitation, expansion, and development projects. Included in this batch of projects would be the construction of the biggest seaport port terminal buildings in the country. The first one is the Port of Zamboanga, and the other one is the Calapan Port. The remaining days of this administration are now focused on further streamlining systems and procedures to achieve seamless interconnectivity, not only of the ports, but also its processes, with the hope of improving efficiency across all aspects of PPA operations. In the last 2 years, PPA managed to sustain uninterrupted provision of port services through policies, programs, activities, and initiatives, all aimed at facilitating maritime trade to improve port processes, procedures, facilities, and infra, ensuring availability of competent and qualified port service providers, and providing healthy and safe working environment for port user, port stakeholders, and port workers. Among the projects and initiatives being carried out would be the following: the implementation of the guidelines on the selection and award of contract under the Port Terminal Management Regulatory Framework, or the PTRMF, which ensures that the provision of port services will be given to that the provision of port services will be of generally acceptable global standards, and award of the contract shall be transparent and shall undergo competitive public bidding. To date, a total of 16 contracts were awarded under PTRMF. 3 bids are undergoing post-qualification process, and ports have been approved, have approved terms of reference and due for publication prefatory to the consultation, to the invitation to bid and the procurement. We have streamlined the guidelines and the transfer of the management and operations of PPA ports to local government units, or LGUs, to allow them to participate in providing transport network linkages and services without PPA abandoning a statutory responsibility over ports, because PPA continues to supervise these ports devolved to the LGUs, and identifying only the ports with under certain parameters and criteria, what ports are eligible for devolution to the LGUs. We have implemented the allowable maximum gross weight for ro vehicles to promote consistency among the regulatory bodies of the government and to align the existing requirements of the DPWH as to maximum gross vehicle weight. The other projects that we have undertaken or completed would be the activation of cruise change hubs in PPA ports, namely in Manila, South Harbor, in Davao, Batangas, and Bataan. We have the PPA electronic payment portal APP, which is the central connection point for doing cashless payment of port transactions anytime and anywhere through the internet. We have the electronic terminal management system with unified electronic ticketing capabilities, which provides a digitized and systemized process of recording and simultaneous submission of passenger, manifest, and vessel voyage, which can effectively be scaled and extended to support future phases of berth management. We have approved the policy on container registry and monitoring system, which is a system which will have the facility to record all containers passing in and out from the port terminals. Each container coming from a foreign port, moving inward or outward of the terminal is recorded in the system with the detailed information required. The implementing operational guidelines are still undergoing refinements. We have also adopted and implemented the interim guidelines on the issuance of permit to operate for shore reception facilities, or the SRF, which ensures the continuity of providing SRF waste disposal services in our ports under the jurisdiction of PPA, even during this pandemic. As part of its port environmental policy and green initiatives, the PPA board has approved the regulations on the mandatory tree planting for all port service providers. And also part of this green initiative would be the ban on the use of unnecessary single-use plastic products in PPA ports and facilities. And we are continuously working on adapting policies and initiatives that would be aligned with our port environmental policy laid down under AO Certified 2018, which pursues the green, resilient, and smart port strategy, or the GRASP, and adopts measures in climate change adaptation, climate change proofing, and setting in place disaster countermeasures and disaster mitigation. PPA likewise released several policies and significant issuances to further promote efficient port management, and among this would be the internet-based port operations and receipting for terminals system, or the iPorts, which allows a complete and secure online transaction on vessel arrivals and berthing documentations, manifest and payment of port charges through a payment gateway, bank-to-bank or cash modes. We have also implemented the online processing of port charges exemption on export wharfage for PEZA registered company at the Manila International Container Terminal. The system automates the processing and approvals of exemptions on export wharfage. We have also streamlined processing of private port applications for energy-related projects in compliance with the Republic Act 11234, or an act establishing the Energy Virtual One-Stop Shop for purposes of streamlining the permitting process of power generation transmission, and to establish procedures in the processing of private port applications of energy-related projects to ensure efficient and effective delivery of service to the public through the electronic application and processing system compliant with the EVOS Act. We have also, since 1919, PPA has implemented its accreditation policy, and it underwent several revisions with the aim of streamlining certain requirements and to comply with the ease of doing business. So we have this AO 06-2019 as amended. It is a structured methodology which includes processes such as review, evaluation, and registration of port user application documents to determine their compliance with the requirements for port services. We have established the electronic accreditation system, and the accreditation for online, application for accreditation can be done online, and acceptance of manual application should be the exemption rather than the rule. We also streamlined our requirements for the issuance of permit to operate to our service providers. We prescribed the requirements and documents, and we further streamlined them. And there is also an electronic platform for application for issuance of PTO. January of last year, in January this year, we have adopted the so-called Transport Accreditation Permit and Pass for Ports, or TAP. This applies to providers of transport services. The AO prescribes the guidelines for transport service providers doing business or intending to do business in ports under PPA's jurisdiction, including private ports. The TAP serves as a single certificate of accreditation, permit to operate, and vehicle access pass for transport service providers. It has a longer validity period. It's valid for 3 years. And there is also an online platform for this one. And again, this was adopted in consonance with and to in furtherance of ease of doing business law. So for transport service providers, they don't need to secure accreditation, PTO, and vehicle pass. There's only one document that they need to secure, and that would be the TAP. PPA, as part of its COVID-19 initiatives, also implemented safety, health, and travel protocols based on guidelines approved by IATF to prevent the spread of infection within PPA supervised and managed ports and the surrounding communities. Among the initiatives implemented along this line would be on the implementation of safety seal certification in ports, wherein all port facilities, establishments, private establishments within the ports are required to comply with the safety seal guidelines. We also have PPA MC 18-2020, or the guidelines for the prevention, control, and mitigation of the COVID disease in the offices and facilities of PPA. This to ensure that the public that the establishments are compliant with the minimum public health standards and are safe for use. It requires that PPA facilities, particularly areas for front-line services such as PTBs, PICOs, and other areas operated by our CHO or PTO, CHO and other service providers which are accommodating third-party visitors or clients shall be retrofitted or mapped to comply with the physical distancing requirements, among others. Physical distancing requirements shall still be observed at all times, and wearing of masks as appropriate. And the TV monitors are installed in PTBs, and they continue to display materials from DOH and the World Health Organization and the do's and don'ts on how to reduce transmission. And we have also printed materials made available in PPA facilities. As we all know, COVID-19 has changed the landscape on how we transact our business, and at the same time, I think affected our day-to-day operations. To help our partners in the industry, PPA implemented some measures to mitigate the effects of the pandemic, and this would include the extension of rental and concession fee for payments for 30-day or a 30-day grace period on rental dues and concessions during the ECQ without incurring interest, penalties, fees, and charges. We also have we also adopted the waiver of PTB fees and Ro-Ro terminal fees and reduction of port charges for locally stranded individuals, vehicles, and vessels under the Hatid Tulong program. We have granted financial assistance to critically impacted maritime sector under RA 11494 through waiver of dockage and layup fees for domestic ships, and waiver of RT-PCR testing fee for returning Filipino seafarers. The Malasakit Help Desk in our ports continue to be active in providing assistance to passengers during the pandemic. To further facilitate trade and fast-track transactions, transaction time with the agency, PPA can continuously take advantage of the digital platform through the promotion of e-commerce, digitalization, and electronic system. PPA is currently working on the following: the review of existing work processes and development of online electronic system for other processes that have not been digitized yet. The development of guidelines on further promotion of e-commerce, digital communication to include the use of electronic signature and online transactions so as to limit human contact to a minimum. We are continuously conducting review of existing electronic systems, procedures, and guidelines for further improvement. The PPA will also be implementing the electronic payment system, or APS. This features automated PPA business transactional operations through an accredited electronic payment gateway provider. and towards the new normal, where keeping the economy moving is balanced with minimizing physical contact. PPA's trust to go cashless has come to a fruition, allowing port users and stakeholders to transact their business online. PPA has partnered with 21 banks to encourage online payment of port fees and charges, including payments for processing of accreditation and permits. We also have the PPA contract tracing application, which was adopted in 2020. And this has been just jointly developed by PPA in-house IT experts and Cosmotech Philippines. This is still being utilized in ports under PPA's jurisdiction. We also launched the electronic payment portal, APP, and it's in PPA's bid to digitize the collection of port charges to reduce face-to-face transaction and comply with the new normal scheme. PPA is integrated, APP is integrated with PPA's other applications such as the electronic accreditation system, electronic permit management system, and the port internet-based port operations and receipting for terminals, or the iPorts. PPA encourages stakeholders to maximize the use of ATI's e-portals, which include WebTrack, tabs, container traffic light systems, and import mobile app for checking cargo status, printing e-gate passes, and other port-related transactions. In the bid of revitalizing port transactions to embrace the new normal setup and limiting physical transactions, our another port terminal operator, ICTSI, has an online facility, which is the Advanced Customer Transaction System, or the ACTS, wherein it allows customers to settle the port charges online and print the required documents to deliver or retrieve their cargo. To make it fully operational, MICT has closed its billing center as part of the transition to 100% digital payments. So on way forward, we can say that despite the difficult times, PPA ports have succeeded to stay open to cargo and passenger operations. Despite the constraints and the limitations, we are able to have a culture of readiness and flexibility in terms of the ability of management to change and modify corporate policies, regulations, and frameworks and systems to contend with the changes and needed responses during the pandemic. Electronic commerce and data exchange, acceleration of digitalization will be the top priority and the new normal, as going paperless is the trend. As physical contact between people needs to be minimized, electronic submission and paper transaction will eventually be mandatory in most or all transactions. PPA ports will continue to be operational and all services in place, guaranteeing complete functionality of supply chains, and at the same time, mindful of the health and safety of port personnel and its users. So that is all. Thank you for your listening, and good morning again.
Well, many thanks for those informative and very exhaustive updates of yours on PPA accomplishments, Attorney De Los Santos.
Yeah, thank you very much, Attorney.
Mm-hmm. And just as on a personal note, I was wondering, do you prefer to be called Asuncion or Yasmin?
You can call me Pinky.
Okay, sige. Well, Pinky, I invite you to stay toward the end when we field questions at the open forum after our fourth speaker. Meanwhile, I'd also like to acknowledge the participation in our domestic shipping forum of representatives from the Maritime Academy of Asia and the Pacific, or MAP. Thank you for joining us. And now, here's our third speaker. Now, as Vice President and as Head of Solutions for the To Go Group Incorporated, he leads the 9-vessel-strong shipping arm of the company, which is a leader in domestic freight transport in the Philippines. Now, he's a 20-year liner shipping veteran with a global background in trade, pricing, sales, and operations in both headquarters and field roles in an industry-leading multinational in Singapore. So everyone, let's give a warm welcome to Dan Fernand. Dan, you have the screen.
Okay, thank you. Give me a second just to share my screen.
Sure.
Okay. Just tell me if it's visible.
Yes, and we hear you loud and clear. Go ahead. Full
Yeah,
steam.
loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to extend my thanks to the Manila Times for inviting us and giving a venue to share more about our industry. Of course, thanks to the Department of Transport, our regulator, and her attached agencies, the Maritime Industry Authority, headed by Vice Admiral Empedrat, and then of course the Philippine Ports Authority, headed by Attorney J, represented by Attorney Pinky today. Thank you also to the rest of my speakers, the speakers that we have today, and thank you to everybody that's viewing. So with that, I start off. So. A bit of a busy slide, but I'd just like to convey the particular capabilities of the To-Go Group. So the To-Go Group is truly the largest integrated logistics and transportation provider within the country. Our various business units within To-Go Group has capabilities in transport and delivery, starting with shipping. We have about 9 ships now, most of them passenger ships. We have cold chain product, so we carry refrigerated containers. We have multimodal transport, so we can do, apart from the full containers, we can do less than container loads, and then we also have air freight, whether dry or refrigerated. We can do last mile, right? Direct to businesses, direct to stores, direct to consumers. And in fact, we also have our full network of stores. So we have our company-owned stores. In the malls, you would see a To-Go store that's ready to accept parcels, boxes. And then we have a very extensive set of agents that apart from selling the freight product, the express products, they also sell travel. In terms of inventory management and distribution solution capabilities, we have warehouses, hubs, naturally container yards. We can do value-added solutions like kitting, bundling, assembly. And then finally, To-Go even has a distribution arm. So we distribute milk products, dairy products direct to pharmacies, stores, and food services. So To-Go is a leading asset owner. That's why we're able to deliver, again, an integrated logistics and transport solution. So just a bit, just indulge me a bit about To-Go. To-Go is a subsidiary of SM Investments Corp. Of course, we all know that as one of the leading Philippine conglomerates. Their core businesses is in retail, banking, and property, but they also invest in ventures that have actually a high growth potential. So it started off as a equity investment in 2017, and then it progressed to become the majority owner of the To-Go Group. Okay, next. Now, because SMIC, because To-Go is a subsidiary of the SM Investments Corp. We're very particular about sustainability. In fact, we have a framework that aligns our To-Go company direction with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. You see it here. So the first one is decent work and economic growth. So what we do is we help drive growth in urban and rural communities. We move people, goods, and services so that we can provide economic opportunities. And as you know, that economic opportunities will then spur into job growth, right? A second key sustainable development goals that we foster is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So we innovate, we provide the transportation infrastructure so that key industry verticals like fast-moving consumer goods, food, pharmaceuticals, etc., can be moved. So that again also enables business, and not just enabling the economy or enabling business. We're also very conscious in terms of what we consume, and fuel is one of the bigger. Any shipping lines, fuel will be one of the bigger expense items that we are consuming. So the more efficient that we're able to handle that, the better off will be our environmental footprint. So we also did asset rationalization. We cut the number of or right size the number of cargo handling equipment, tractors, vessels, and made it all as environmentally efficient as possible. And then feeds off to the third point. The Philippines is a perennially hit with typhoons, and it's noticed that is as a result of whatever's happening with humanity's effect on the climate. So we're cognizant of that, and then we've built a structure within the company that acknowledges it, promotes it across the employees. So I've talked a lot about enabling businesses, and this is what the To Go Group does. We operate a large fleet of transportation vehicles, and that enables business activity across our archipelago. So if you look at it, if you're starting up your company, you have a product, you want them to send samples out. To Go has you. We can bring parcels. We can bring parcels with your samples. We can bring boxes. As your business progresses, becomes bigger, you're probably then shipping more and more boxes. We can handle that through our LCL business. As it even becomes more, then you're probably shipping pallets, and then suddenly you're shipping containers as you mature through your business cycle. So To Go is there with all the relevant assets, with all the relevant expertise in a single company that actually helps businesses achieve their own goals or makes them win in their own markets. So next slide. One of the key things that To Go operates, and the business unit that I'm particularly heading, which is shipping, is that we operate. We're the only operator in the Philippines of the large roll-on, roll-off passenger ships that allows us to provide day-definite, lead time specific connectivity from Manila to the key base ports, to the key outports in Visayas and Mindanao. So these are the key or the major economic hubs. Apart from connectivity into Cebu, Iloilo, Bacolod, Cagayan de Oro, we also call up-and-coming cities. We have calls to Samis, Butuan, Dipolo, Puerto Princesa, Coron, Dumaguete. We also call Davao and General Santos. And what we're able to do with by operating this very unique and differentiated product is we're able to provide companies, fast-moving consumer good companies, your small, medium-scale enterprises, a very definite lead time. And if you give a very definite lead time, it means that their goods are available in Visayas and Mindanao in the right assortment, in the right quantity, at the right time. So they're at the store shelves for their own customers to be able to buy, thereby allowing to-go's customers to win in the market. It's differentiated in the sense that it's pretty fast compared to typical freighter services, and even compared to another alternative mode, which you would probably heard of, is the roll-on-roll of trucks. These are the trucks that goes through the eastern seaboard or passes down through to Batangas, Panay to reach Visayas and Mindanao. In fact, if you think about it, these are Roro trucks, because of our roll-on roll-off capabilities, they're actually even loading with to go out of Manila and out of Batangas. So why is it important to provide day-definite, lead time specific connections? Most importantly, for agricultural produce. Food security is a key thing for our country. You have, because we're an archipelago, you have certain kinds of crops produced in certain parts. So you would say Luzon is more for rice. You would say that Western Visayas is more for sugar. You would say that fruits are coming from fruits. Some of the vegetables are coming from Mindanao. So it's very important that you have something that's lead time specific, because you're carrying perishable cargoes, and these cargoes meant for local consumption really is a vital link in food security. So as mentioned, across the entire group, you have the various stages from pickup from the farm, receiving the goods either for your prep, for your storage, putting it away, inventory management, picking, and then we have that integral domestic shipping leg, whether on dry containers, refrigerated, whether it's a full container, whether it's pallets, and then it arrives the cross docks, and then it's finally delivered to the store, and then finally delivered to the consumers. So again, the To-Go Group has solutions that are able to help businesses, help businesses, help farmers, help those entities get their goods immediately to consumers with the least amount of spoilage, because we operate an extremely fast and lead time specific shipping product. And then just as a side note, we can do dry containers, we can do LCL, cold chain, and then we can even do bulk liquid shipments. So for example, sugar is moved not just as the raw sugar, it is also moved in sucrose via flexi tanks. So another big thing that we do, because our ship is a roll-on-roll-off passenger ship, is that we have travel as one of our key products. So upper right-hand side of the slide, you see this Philippine Travel Survey report done by the Department of Tourism and the Asian Institute of Management. They did this way back in 2020, but the findings are valid. The question they had was, once travel restrictions are lifted, how soon do you think you will be traveling? And that is specific to domestic travelers. So they had about 12,000 respondents across 81 provinces, mostly within the ages of 22 to 40, mostly college graduates, mostly from the private sectors with a certain level of disposable income. And 70% actually expect to travel within the 6 months of lifting of restrictions and the availability of vaccines. So there's a lot of pent-up demand that we see from travel. So preparing that, we continue to improve our travel product. We're offering the ability to host events on board. So if you have meetings, incentive events for your sales teams, conferences, exhibits, you are able to perform this on board. And then while you're on board the ship, we've improved it by having Wi-Fi, by having more retail options, so you can shop, you can have more food choices, and then we can even host concerts on board, movies, music, and then something for the kids. It's a key economic enabler because travel feeds into tourism, and we know tourism has a certain degree of economic multiplier. And then, of course, while we're doing that, we're ensuring the safety and welfare of our crew and passengers. All of our crew is vaccinated. We comply very strictly with local government, national government protocol. So whatever the latest protocol is, it is compliant to that. And then each of the ships that we operate have isolation rooms, air-conditioned systems that are clean, maintained. Because you're on the ship, the air exchange is very nice. You're out in the sea, right? And then of course you have round-the-clock cleaning based on certain public health standards for cruise ships. Now, towards the modernization end, so Togo continues to invest in technology and transport infrastructure because we need to realize efficiencies and because we need to improve our environmental stewardship. So I'll show you a couple of videos showing you our latest ships. But on this slide, I'd like to talk about the technology investments that the group made apart from buying ships. So we have an automated sorting machine. So boxes, parcels of all types is fed through this machine, and it can process something like 140,000 parcels per day. It is then automatically sorted to more than 700 routes or drop-off points, and this allows us to very quickly get your parcels, your goods for the last mile direct to your consumer or your offices or your sites. And then closing off with a couple of videos. So the video that is playing now, this is the MV to go Maligaya. She's I think she's the largest in the domestic fleet with a gross tonnage of 29,000. We brought her in the Philippines 2001. We started sailing her towards the end of May. She's about 195 meters length overall. The ship was built in Japan, and then it has a German engine. In terms of navigational instruments, we have it to a global standard. So we have electronic charts, echo sounders, radars. In fact, this ship has a joystick system that the captain will just use that joystick when the captain is maneuvering in and out, and then all those modern features, modern and safe features that make this ship into, I think, the pride of the local fleet. You see the livery, which is striking. I think it's nice. The waves show our company's progress across the times. What we wanted to do was have shapes from the Togo logo represent the values being progressive, being holistic into something that is visually stimulating. So this ship is called To Go Maligaya, and then for those that don't speak the local language, Maligaya is not just being happy; it's joy. So it's a deeper sense of it's a deeper sense of joy. Thanks to our partners, our regulator in Marina, who helped us also when we were importing this vessel. So as what Vice Admiral Empedrad mentioned, aging fleet needs to be improved. So this is in some way Togo's response for that, slowly improving the fleet. Not just because they look good, they look certainly good, but it makes economic sense to do it from a fuel consumption standpoint, from a cargo capacity standpoint, from a passenger standpoint. I'll skip to the next video. So this video now is the video of our ship internals. So you come into the main lobby area. Even if the ship was built in Japan, we wanted her to feel very Filipino. So you will notice all the elements actually have all the visual elements have its roots in our Filipino culture. So you have you see a jeepney over there, you see a mascara, you see local games being played. Those kinds of images. So in terms of facilities that you have on board, you see there, of course, it has a front desk for the visitors, for the passengers and visitors, and then you have a section where you can buy to go branded gear, to go merchandise. You have charging stations. Very important for us to remain connected. This ship also has a Wi-Fi on board, so you have a quick mart. One of the things that we want to showcase is that Philippine ships are actually of a certain degree of standard. It could have been in the past where certain bad impressions stuck that certain ships are not well maintained or not clean, but these ships are very, very well maintained, very well kept. Of course, compliant to IMO safety of life at sea, SOLAS, STCW, watchkeeping, and then MARPOL. And then, of course, I'm also backed with a world-class technical team. Heading technical for us is Apollo Santos. He also used to work in various companies in Singapore. So we're bringing back home a lot of what we've learned into To Go, because it's a level of pride to really elevate the shipping industry, or in this particular case, at least a shipping company to a certain level of standard. So you have tatami areas. I'll skip soon. Yeah, I should skip. So this will just show you a bit of the accommodation types. This tourist premium type, because of social distancing, you may want to just stay in a cabin of your own, so a cabin of one. We've already planned for that and built it into the design of the ship. I'll probably stop once they show the stateroom. So it's really when we show this off to passengers or people not very familiar with ships, they're like shocked, they're impressed, they're shocked. They didn't think that the state of Philippine shipping is already at this level. So I'll move on to the last video. So you see here on the right side, that is MV to go Maligaya, and her sister ship MV to go Masagana. So Masagana, again, in our local language, is denotes prosperity. So the ships, the names of the ships are actually very aspirational in nature. And then you have a beautiful shot of SMCT Seaside at the background. So I think it's important. It's important for us to have been able to operate through the pandemic, able to modernize, innovate, bring in a kind of product that the Filipino consumer deserves, but not also that by operating throughout the pandemic, to go and our industry partners, our fellow ship owners, is a force for economic good and for social good. During the pandemic, a lot of the shipping lines, a lot of the ship owners assisted in various ways, moving stranded passengers, helping the OFWs, the seafarers that were displaced during Typhoon Odette last December. Collectively, a lot of critical goods was moved into Cebu. To go in particular, moved something like 500 metric tons worth of relief goods. We partnered up with One Meralco Foundation to be able to quickly send their basket trucks and their technicians to be able to electrify and bring back the Cebu power grid. It's near and dear to my heart because I'm a Cebuano. So I think I'll end my presentation there. Shipping, we are an archipelago. Shipping is the main transportation mode to move goods between the islands. It is the most efficient transportation mode, more efficient than rail, more efficient than trucks, and it is a key enabler of economic growth. And then with support from our regulators, we can then improve the shipping industry, because that's what the Filipino people deserve and need. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very informative presentation. And it's nice to know that companies like yours are leveling up the standards in inter-island ship travel and transport. Okay, now, so let us now go to our fourth speaker. He has over 30 years of experience in shipping and worked in the domestic shipping industry as the CEO of Tugo and as Assistant Vice President of Lorenzo Shipping. He has wide experience in international container shipping with country leadership positions for APL in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Indonesia. And he was also part of the team that launched the first all-water direct service connecting Asia to the US East Coast via the Suez Canal. He worked at the corporate office in Singapore, focusing on the sales process. He also implemented sales variable compensation for global sales team and took a lead in Salesforce automation. He also headed the APL global pricing team, which was responsible for global bids and contracts that flowed into the global tariff system of APL. He also worked with one of the largest manning agencies in the world. So let me welcome today our last speaker, Mark Matthew Francisco Parco, the President of Philippine Liner Shipping Association. Thank you very much. You can now have the floor, sir.
Are you able to show your presentation, Mark? Conrad, I think Mark is having technical difficulties with his screen. Are you able to view him?
I still don't view wala pa. But I'm very sure. Okay.
Well, while we're waiting, I would like to field the question to our previous speakers because we've had a number of questions already coming in, and this one is actually from our maritime and shipping editor, Carmela Huelar, and she was asking, how has connecting the islands progressed under the Duterte administration? How many routes have been opened, and what's the target until the end of the Duterte administration? Would perhaps any of you, Vice Admiral?
The question is how many routes will be open and how many routes were open in the past.
Yes, and perhaps how many more until the end of the current administration?
Yeah, if you look at the history in 2016 to 2018, there were 20 routes that opened. So meaning you're talking about 6 to 7 ships a year. Then in 2019, there were 8 routes that opened. However, in 2020, when the pandemic started, there were still 6 routes that were opened. 6 routes in 2020. And in 2021, surprisingly, even though in the pandemic, there is a pandemic, the routes that were opened were 11 routes in 2021, more than the other routes in the previous 5 years of the Duterte administration. In 2022, there is just 2 routes that opened so far. And I think it's very tough to determine how many more will be opened. I think I will organize a meeting with the marina and the ship's owners to study the feasibility of opening routes. Because, you know, as reflected in the presentation of a PPA, they build lots of piers and ports all over the archipelago. So it's an opportunity for opening routes. So maybe we need to come up with a workshop with the stakeholders to determine how many routes are open and what is the capability and the capacity of the ship owners to provide ships to serve routes that were is still open. There are so many routes that are still open in the entire archipelago. So we need to increase more the capacity. And I think when the PSA IRR will be, the new PSA law IRR will be completed, I think this will increase more the opening of routes with the entry of foreign players to serve our domestic trade. So in the future, when foreign players comes in and we incentivize our domestic players, then maybe more routes will be open for the good of the economy and for the good of the commuters all over the archipelago. So I hope I was able to respond to the question of Carmela. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we will go back to the question and answer later now. Let me reintroduce our last speaker. His name is Mark Matthew Francis Coparco, the president of the Philippine Liner Shipping Association. Sir, the screen is now yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We hear you very clearly.
And the screen, I'm sure you can see my screen. Thank you, Manila Times. Thank you to my co-speakers, Administrator Impedad, to Attorney Pinky of PPA, and to Dan from To Go. Thank you for the invite. I think I'll go straight into it. I think people are always asking, what's the latest in shipping? So this is just to let you know what is the state of shipping right now, comparing pre-COVID 2019 with the 2021 volumes. So clearly, when you compare 2019 and 2021, there's still a very weak head haul, which is the outbound, which is Manila going south. It's down by 13% against 2019. The inbound, which is Visayas and Mindanao coming into Manila, has shown greater strength. It's only 1% down. But as a total, because the head haul is the southbound takes up most of the volume, our total throughput is still down. including the empties, it's around 15% down. Okay. So domestic shipping. Domestic shipping carries over 95% of inter-island trade. That's the importance of shipping. So wherever you are in Visayas or Mindanao, you can expect that whatever you're eating, whatever you buy from the store, would probably have made it to your town through ships. That's the only way. And we've been doing this in spite of disasters, pandemics, and economic downturns. Even during the pandemic, our lines, in spite of the drop in volume, continued to serve the country. And as you know, shipping is a key part of the logistics chain. Getting across the sea, you need a ship. Even if you go via the rows, via the nautical highway, you still have to go on a ship to get to the next island. And we wanted to dispel some myths about shipping. There's always been this myth that domestic shipping is inefficient and is the culprit of high cost of goods in the Philippines. But the fact is, shipping freight is only a small part of the total transportation cost to bring goods to market. Now, we've done several studies. One is Lakatan bananas. This is actual numbers we got from the PSA North Mindanao, which is the Statistical Authority of the Philippines. Farm gate prices at that time, December 2020, was 28.78 per kilo. Now, to get to Manila, it has to be stuffed, it has to be put in a truck, and it's loaded in a ship. When it's loaded in a ship, the additional cost for that from pier to pier was only 3 pesos per kilo. And yet the price in Metro Manila, after the trucking, after the unstuffing, after all the port charges and all, goes up to 70.46 per kilo. So shipping does not add to that. We're only 4.2% of the retail price. Now let's look at another commodity, live hogs. This was very hot at that time when because of the problems of hogs, the cost of live hogs had gone up. At that time, it went up to as much as 400 pesos per kilo. Now, again, using the Statistical Authority's numbers, farm gate prices was around 120 per kilo at Oxargen, and we ship it out. It only costs 6 pesos from port to port. And at retail, it was at 331, and at some cases, it was going up to 400. So clearly, shipping does not, increases in shipping do not add that much to the cost of goods. So shipping is not the culprit. Domestic shipping, the other thing that people say is domestic shipping is more expensive than international shipping. We always get this argument, oh, from Kaohsiung or Hong Kong, I can get a $1 freight per 20-footer. And from Cebu to Manila, it's around 20. Now it's gone up to 30 because of the cost. So let's see what the real cost is. Now, from Kaohsiung to Manila, people forget that it's not just the freight they pay for international shipments. There's an origin dock fee, there's an origin THC, there's a Manila dock fee. They are charged other things like imbalance, cleaning, Manila THC, and then there's a low sulfur charge. That's for fuel. In Manila, from Manila to Cebu for domestic shipping, the freight, yes, is expensive, 25 to 30,000. I'll use 30,000 as worst case. And to bring it to Cebu, and does not include trucking, of course, you have Arrastre Manila, Arrastre Cebu, Wharfage Manila, Wharfage Cebu, and craneage. All those are PPA charges. We don't add anything on top of that. We do have a bunker surcharge because of the high fuel prices, but if you add that all up using 30,000, we only add up to 41,580. Now, I'm not saying that international is expensive. What the message really is the cost of the ship is expensive. The cost of fuel is expensive. But domestic shipping is minimizing that cost. We are not, we are quite reasonable in that sense. Now, something that people don't remember is that shipping follows trade. So the economies of scale are achieved depending on the size of the trade, right? Now, domestic ships are small because the trade is small. We don't carry much to, especially if you go to a smaller port like Ozamis or Iligan, they don't carry as much volume. The bigger ports for us are Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, and Davao. and the biggest ships in domestic trade will be there. Now, if we allow foreigners to come in, they will be facing the same problems we are facing, which is the economies of scale. So it doesn't matter whether we allow foreigners in, they will be facing the same problems which domestic shipping lines face. So economies of scale. Just as an example, if you compare international, their feeder ships are already 2,000 to 3,000 TEUs. Whereas in Manila, in the Philippines, the size of the ships are around 350 to 750. This slide is a bit wrong because Togo has brought in a 200 plus ro-ro ship. But even then, it's quite small compared to international ships. And when you talk about the long haul, international ships are around 4,000, which is quite small, to around 18,000, which is the norm in the long haul. For us, our long haul is Manila Davao, Manila Cebu, Manila Cagayan, and the largest ships we have there are around 1,000 TEUs because of the trade and because of the type of ports that we have. Another example is corn to the Philippines. If it's imported, it's loaded in a ship that can carry 65,000 metric tons. When we bring corn from Mindanao to Luzon, it's shipped in containers. It's 20 metric tons in one container. So you can just imagine the amount of handling, extra handling that we incur. So there's no economies of scale. This is the same, sorry. So for us to be able to be more cost effective, we have to get out of this thingy trade and consolidate. We have to have bigger volumes. Now, domestic ship owners, as you saw with some of the presentations, are committed to the Philippine economy, and we will buy ships that the trade needs. And we're ready to work with producers to find solutions to bring goods to market. One idea, of course, is clustering the industries. This is just for feed mill and the hogs. So corn is produced in Vismin, and it's shipped to Luzon, to the feed mills where it's processed. Then it's shipped to the hog and poultry growing regions in Vismin, and then the final goods, which is the hog and poultry, are shipped back to Luzon. So you ship it out 3 times. However, if you cluster and you have your corn production, your feed mill, and hog poultry growing areas in one area, then you don't have to ship it out. It's in the same location. That's what we mean by clustering. And what happens is you only ship out once when you, after you bring it to the slaughterhouse and after you pack it, then you can ship it out already as boxed meat to the cold chain in the market. Another problem we have, which Administrator Emperadad said, was infrastructure issues. Although PPA has been doing their job, I think if you look at the ports, only Manila, Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, and Subic have ship's cranes. Everywhere else, we have to use ship's gear. Now, Cebu has ship's gear, has cranes, but not everyone can use it because it's reserved for international, right? So with the use of ship's gear, our productivity on the vessels are slower. And we incur higher costs because we have to maintain our cranes. So this is something that maybe PPA and the terminal operators can have a look at and help us improve, because that is the norm in other countries. In other countries, most of the ships do not have cranes anymore. Ship's gear. They use the short cranes. Infrastructure. Poor road infrastructure in and out of the ports contributes to the high cost of logistics and transportation in the country. A symptom of this really is the truck bans. If a truck is not allowed to move for a certain time of the day, then they're unable to do multiple trips. So just imagine, for the truck operator, for them to be able to earn, they will have to charge higher because they're not able to do multiple trips. The other thing that we do not have enough of are berths to accommodate growth. Now, a symptom of this is when you look at the ship schedules of local or domestic shipping lines for the long haul, except for Togo because they're a passenger ship and they have priority. For all the other cargo ships, were unable to do fixed day of the week sailing. This is a norm in any other country. Fixed day of the week sailing. So you know when the vessel is departing and where it is going on a fixed day of the week. Usually it's weekly schedules. If you talk to exporters, they'll always tell you, oh, my shipping line has a weekend departure from Manila going to Los Angeles. It's not, oh, it depends, we don't know when, right? I know that Attorney Pinky had said so much improvements and in by PPA, but when I look at the ports that they have improved, Urimao, Legazpi, Tabaco, Bulan, Pasiao, Baybay, Palompon. When I look at these ports and I look at the PPA volume numbers, I don't think those ports carry even 5% of the total volume of the country. So these improvements are not really improving the infrastructure so as to reduce the logistics cost in our country. The investments have to be done in a focused manner to reduce the logistics cost of the country. Now we have other challenges, and some of them are regulatory. Overlapping agencies. Just imagine for a shipping line, you have to get Marina, PPA, OTS for safety. You have to get all of them to approve you. And you know, in other countries, once a shipping line is approved by the flag state, which is Marina in our case, then everything else follows. You don't have to ask permission or to get certification from PPA or from OTS, because Marina is your flag state. They're responsible and they are registering you and they are the ones who are regulating you. On the class societies, I'm sure Admiral and Pandad knows about this. Because of the new regulations, there's no local class available. And for some of the shipping lines, this leaves them without insurance coverage because class certification is necessary. Of course, high fuel taxes. Philippines has one of the highest fuel taxes, whereas in other countries, the fuel is subsidized for the lines. With PPA, the unified ticketing system, they've implemented the unified ticketing system and they launched it in, I think, October or September of 2021, but they had their public hearing in November of that year also, which is after the launching. Local PTO requirements, they've said that they have made it easier, but now they've put in a requirement of tree planting, 10,000 trees to be planted. And we are the only industry being required to do this. And in fact, if you're a port operator, you have to plant 100,000. At the start, they said that you have to plant 100,000 mangrove trees. Now they've said any tree, because I don't know how they were able to come up with this regulation without looking at the impact. Another is this top CRMS, wherein they will be registering the ships. And clearly, this is already a duplication of the work of customs. And in fact, they were brought up to ARTA on this. And they are supposed now to have belatedly a public hearing on this. And the public hearing was supposed to be last week, but they have again postponed. So they're implementing something without the public hearing, without the regulatory compliance. Mandatory pilotage is an issue. It slows ships down. In the best practices in the world, if you are a local, which means in Norway, if you're a Norwegian shipping line and your master has sailed into a port so many times, then they allow for they certify that master to be a pilot without requiring new pilots. Same in Japan. After a certain number of trips, they certify the local shipping line master to be a pilot. So these are simple things, but it does add up to the cost because we have to wait. It hits our productivity and so forth. The other thing is tariff increases. PPA has come up with PTMRF, but it's increased handling cost by 100 to 400%. In fact, in Tacloban, the cost to handle rice has gone up 400%. And this is now happening to those 16 ports which they have launched, they have applied this, much to the dismay of the locals. Of course, now they will have to pay for higher costs for their prime goods, for whatever moves in and out. In Tacloban, like I said, the rice went up by, 200%. And we have not seen, as a manager or as a businessman, price increases or even wage increases or what, we always look and say, how do we justify this? Usually there are productivity improvements to justify this. And it has to justify, if it's gone up by 400, there has to be a 400% improvement in productivity. But we have not seen this also from the PPA implementation. Another thing that has happened in the last few years is that there's an automatic escalation of tariff based on consumer price index. So if there is inflation, port charges will go up automatically. So in that case, then it will add to more inflation. So it's really a cycle. And it's sad to see because ports are now protected based on the new Public Service Act. And to us, they should also be subject to the 12% rule, wherein there's only a 12%. If your return on investment is less than 12%, then you can have an increase. If it's higher than 12, then there's no need for an increase because, again, you're a public service, right, for the good of the public. Waste reception, this was implemented, but yet, again, very high increases in many of the ports, 100, 200%. So something that all these regulatory changes have made life very difficult for domestic shipping lines. Now, there was a study in 2015 by DTI after they decided to allow some easing in cabotage. They allowed the foreign lines to move international cargo between domestic ports. So in that study, they said that what has happened, and they've said that because of the productivity and inefficiency in inter-island services, not in shipping, in inter-island services, e.g. cargo handling and terminal handling and customs procedure. Well, for domestic customs procedure does not impact us. The resulting low level of productivity of domestic ports likewise reduces the service quality of Philippine exports and affects the industry's competitiveness. So again, it's the productivity. And you can see that when you see that there's no domestic line which can do fixed day of the week sailing. So again, I can read it out to you, but basically it comes down to longer periods of loading and unloading at berth. Current infrastructure is found to be inadequate. And as like I said earlier, PPA has done some improvement, but not in the ports where most of the cargo flows. So there is still congestion, ships still wait, and we're not unable to give a fixed day of the week sailing. The other thing that they said was that economies of scale and balance of trade are important to achieve lower freight costs. So economies of scale. I think any economic guy would tell you that, economies of scale will reduce cost. And we're unable to do that, not only because of the trade, but also because the ports are unable to take on bigger ships. Not just the berth, but maybe the handling equipment. And then even if you have more cargo moving, can the roads handle it? So the way forward to us is to improve efficiency and reduce cost. So port infrastructure efficiency, better port facilities, adequate berthing, then regulatory efficiency, focus on regulations that improve safety and improve efficiency and reduce redundancy. The third one, I don't know how feasible this is with the high debt of the Philippines, but in other countries, they do subsidize shipping. And then last is, of course, to increase scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I noticed that in some of the items that you mentioned in your talk, there were certain matters that were referred to the PPA. Perhaps Attorney Pinky would like to comment on those, and we can shift toward our question and answer portion. Attorney Pinky, would you like to add on to the items that Mark mentioned?
Yeah. there are numerous items raised, but can I start with the 2012 IFC study, International Finance Corporation under World Bank? Mark cited that study, and I would like to emphasize that actually that the IFC study was the one which triggered the Port Terminal Regulatory Management Framework Policy of PPA, and the PTRMF aims to actually improve the delivery of cargo handling services and other services in the ports. We're looking at a 15-year contract where key performance indicators are defined, equipment to be provided by the terminal operator are defined, and these KPIs are subject to review every 3 years or as needed. So my plea really is, my appeal is for the shipping industry to give PTRMF a chance to prove that, you know, this is a policy that will eventually address the issues raised in the IFC and some of the issues raised earlier by Mark. One item raised is on the considerable increase in tariff rates, and I think we're able to address this in several fora. But may I reiterate again that number one, the cargo handling rates or the tariff rates in the ports where we have implemented the PTRMF, most of the tariffs there were the last increase was way back in 2013. So we're speaking of about 8 years or 9 years without tariff increase in this areas. Tariff increase is equated or synonymous with, it should be coupled with the considerable improvement also in the service. So where there is a tariff increase, it is expected that the port terminal management operator is able to improve the delivery of service based on the KPIs provided in the contract. So if they are not at par or they are not compliant with the KPIs or in the equipment, the type and number of equipment deployed in the port, then it's something that can be subject to sanctions provided also in the contract. There is a way actually for shippers to be able to address this so-called sudden or substantial increase in tariff, and that would be to look at the other way of packaging or packaging this cargoes. If the shippers are able to utilize containers, to ship, to carry their cargoes, then the so-called 400 or so tariff will not apply, because the tariff for containers I think is much lower than the one for break bulk cargoes. And on the tree planting requirement, we have emphasized that the type of trees to be planted, the location, and other requirements should be in accordance with the regulations of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And we're trying. We are currently drafting supplemental guidelines to address issues we have encountered in the implementation of that requirement. On can Mark flash again, if I may, the slide containing PPA issues? Yeah, if it's okay, I'll try to address them. On the CRMS, yes, correct. We are slated to present that. We were slated to present the implementing operational guidelines last week, but after due consideration of the issues raised and the acknowledgement that there's a need for us to address certain operational issues, we have to defer that. But we're continuously working on to ensure that the policy, once we decide to implement it, would be able to address not really all, but most of the issues raised against the policy. And again, our appeal is to give that policy a chance. And yeah, and with regard to what's the other one? The tariff increase. May I clarify and and stress that the increase is not automatic in case of fuel prices. There's a formula and the process to be observed and uncovered. On the electronic ticketing system, we have modified it. I think we have presented it, and there were concerns raised by PLSC and our stakeholders. And one of the issues raised there is that what if an existing shipping company has its own ticketing system? So how will that be able to work with the system? And it was highlighted, and it will be and as adopted, it is not mandatory for that shipping line to adopt the PPA system. What will be done would be to interface their system with the ETMS, where we will be complying with the requirements of the data privacy law. There would be one of the issues raised then is for PPA collecting, collecting passenger what's that fee? The fee, shipping fare, and it was it was adopted in the system that there is no money will be handled by PPA. There will be no third party intervention. So meaning data, monetary matters will not be hampered or covered by the system. So meaning shipping lines are able to maintain independently their system. All we need is that there is interfacing subject to certain requirements on data privacy. On what's the other one?
Would you care to?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, on accreditation requirement by PPA and Marina and OTS, I think I have to stress that the requirements, we have streamlined our requirements, and the purpose of Marina accreditation and OTS and PPA would be different, but we can guarantee that the requirements have already been streamlined, and in fact, shipping companies are not required to secure a permit to operate. All they need is to have an accreditation, which is valid for 3 years. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Pinky, for answering all the points raised. We really appreciate your being able to bring balance to the conversation. If I may also bring into the conversation Dan Fernan, we have a question for To Go based on since there is a law allowing foreign ownership. How will that impact your operation, and what must be done to protect domestic ship owners? Can you discuss this competition?
I think not just looking at foreign competition, but competition in general. It is incumbent on a company to continue to improve and upgrade its services. I personally believe in the capitalist system. So in the capitalist system, more efficient, more innovative companies will be able to sustain in the long term. In the short term, in the long term, and then if a company is not innovating, is not being efficient, is not being relevant to its customers, then whether it is foreign or local, it will get corrected by the invisible hand, of the economy. Yeah.
So I understand that at least there's no point in in coddling inefficient or substandard services or companies. I guess everyone has to step up, especially now in our current environment. So thank you for that.
That's a general principle. Not to say that shipping companies, whether mine or others, are performing in a certain way. Just pointing out though that you would see the results. Our results are actually published, and it's also published in Marina. So shipping hasn't had a very good time in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Conrad, would you like to raise some of the questions from our columnists and our editors? I'd also like to welcome Attorney Brenda Pimentel. She's also a columnist for the Manila Times and former head of the Overseas Division of Marina. So welcome on board, Attorney Brenda Pimentel. Go ahead, Conrad.
Yes, I'd like to know, is it high time that we change our mindset from treating the maritime industry to what I would call a full logistics industry? Because, if you treat the transport industry, the logistics industry and the maritime industry as separate entities, you won't, there will be no integrated planning or even efforts from both the private sector and the government to provide what I would call seamless service to people who are seeking such seamless services. Can I get your views on that? Is it high time we start treating the sea transport, land transport, and logistics industry as one industry? Yes.
Administrator Empedrad, would you like to start off?
Yeah, I think this should have been done before. 90% of the trades are coming from sea. So when you deliver goods from a particular islands of our country to another island, and then if, for example, the maritime transportation is faster, and then the infrastructure of bringing the goods by land to where the market is also slow, and that could damage the whole process. So dapat talaga naka-integrate lahat ng galawan ng particular goods from a particular place to where the market is. And that's not only involved the maritime, but it also involves our connectivity sa land. Example, dito sa Manila port natin, kung mabilis man yung movement ng cargos by sea, pagdating dito, yung mga sinasakyan na mga trucks are having hard time to bring it to the market because of the traffic congestion in Manila. So may problema nga yun. So we should come up with a strategic study. Like for example, siguro personal ko lang ito is do not bring the goods to a port that when you travel it by land to the destined market, maka-traffic. At hindi lang yung i-affect niya yung delivery ng goods, it also affect the lives of our people in Manila. It's a very populated place. So siguro maganda, merong ginagawa yung ibang country that they deliver their goods from the ports by train to where the market is. So maybe siguro dapat talaga strategic. There should be a team that have to study yung linkage ng the maritime to the land infrastructure so that the goods will be delivered faster. So I hope that's my point of view as far as the question is concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me welcome one of the Manila Times columnists for Maritime, Attorney Brenda Pimentel. Yeah. Welcome. Yeah, do you have any questions to any of the panelists?
Yeah. I think it's a general comment that I will have to say. And also I would like to ask the administrator one or two questions. Well, we know that to date, the maritime sector remains in the periphery of the national agenda. I think it's not even included, despite efforts at agency or department levels like Marina and DOTR, resolving the challenges confronting domestic shipping still persists. The absence of a national maritime agenda, which provides the direction upon which policy, legislation, and institutional structures is much needed. The question is that, well, in your program, you have cited the vision of the Philippine Development Plan that was in 2011-2016, which is the vision of safe, secure, efficient, competitive, dependable, integrated, environmentally sustainable, and people-oriented transport system. I don't think these were properly articulated to all concerned, including the public, the shippers, and the passengers. How are the various components of the vision? You know, you talk of safe, secure, efficient. How are these various components translated by government into policies, legislation, and institutional structure as to be able to make the stakeholders like industry understand them and their role they have to play to achieve the objectives. We have shown the industry presentation that there is a big disconnect between the plans and initiatives of the government with those of the industry. I recognize Admiral Empedrad's focus and hard work on the MIDP. Of course, it is not an all-encompassing development plan. It's focused more on the call of PD474 to develop a maritime industry development plan. But sir, may I know if at least there is any progress on your initiative to have President Duterte sign this important document? And in addition, sir, I would like already to ask, will the PSA amendment, in the PSA amendment, will foreign ship owners operating in domestic waters be entitled to the same incentives to be granted under the Marina DBP MOA? Would this not work against the local ship owners? Thank you.
Yeah, those are tough two questions from Attorney Brenda. Thank you very much for that question. First, on the MIDP, yes, the MIDP has not been approved by the President yet. That's why we're working very hard in collaboration with NEDA, because the last step on the process of the approval of the President is with NEDA. So we're currently working with NEDA. They are asking us some of the requirements that they needed before they send it to the approval of the President. So we are working on that, and I hope that before the next President takes over, ma-approve na ni President Duterte yung ating NEDA. We are very, very confident that we will be able, actually, nabibigay na namin yung mga requirements natin. So I might be meeting with the NEDA chair before my end term, so that the President needs to sign the MIDP, because without the signature of the President or the approval of the President, hindi mag-move forward yung strategic plan na to eh. This will elevate our standards and our vision for the industry once the President approves, because there are funds that needs to be used. Without the approval of the President, walang pundo. Though, if you look at the MIDP, that requires more than 100 billion peso budget. Some of the budget should be spent by the industry or the players. So, kahit di pa na-approve yung ng MIDP ng President, I think the players are doing their part. Like for example, To Go and Kokalyong, and other big companies, ship owners, they acquire new ships and provide services to major ports. So may role yung stakeholders. But it's important that the President should approve this so that yung agencies of government will work together in the implementation or execution of what has been placed in the plan, which requires, has 10 priority programs, ranging from providing services to our inland waters, connectivity of our islands, the seafarers. We don't have to forget the seafarers kasi yan yung nagbibigay ng budget, ng revenue sa government. They provide $6.5 billion a year revenue to our government. So there is a hope in our seafarers, but the MIDP will strengthen all the priority programs as far as safety, or as mentioned by Attorney Brenda. So yes, I'm trying very hard to let it be approved by the President before I end my term. Regarding the PSA, I think our engagement with the Development Bank of the Philippines does not include foreign ship owners. But if the foreign ship owners comes into the picture, I believe opportunity itong PSA to provide good services to our commuters, to our Filipino people. So it's not just cargo, but it's also passengers. So you provide good services to Pagka maraming competition, gaganda yung standard ng mga competitors. But I'd like to assure the domestic ship owners that Marina is behind you always. And we will do our best to make sure that the IRR that will be crafted will be advantageous to our domestic ship owners. Sa akin lagi, even the domestic shipbuilding component of the industry, lagi kong pupush yung dapat yung ating mga domestic shipbuilders and domestic ship owners should be very competitive when we allow foreign players to come and serve our domestic trade. So I hope I was able to answer your question, Attorney Brenda. Thank you.
Yes. May I ask another question? Thank you very much, sir. That was you have explained very well what we wanted to hear, and I hope industry is also amenable to the answers, to the response of Administrator Impedrat. But there is another issue I would like to raise, sir, and this was not touched. Well, in a way, it was touched, but you know the shipbuilding issue. I have seen how Korea and Japan has developed their shipbuilding industry. And in these two countries, and even I think in Indonesia and in Singapore, shipbuilding is part of the industry department, not the maritime administration. Because what they are practically selling is a ship. And I think it's not within the ambit of Marina to, you know, do a, what do you call this, advertising or selling ships. So I'm not sure. I think we can learn a lot from Japan and Korea. Japan, the MLIT of Japan is only there for those ships that will be built for the Japanese flag. But building ships per se, they're building it to sell it somewhere. I think it's not within the maritime administration of these two countries. Can you comment on that, sir? Thank you.
Yes, Tony Brenda. First of all, PD 474, when it was enacted into law, yung PD 474 allows Marina to take to integrate the development of the maritime industry, which include shipbuilding, shipbreaking, and many other things. So, nandiyan na yan sa batas eh. Mahirap ng ano yan eh. You know, but the issue here is, did Marina came up with a strategic plan to revive the shipbuilding capacity of our domestic players? We are number 5. Before, nag-number 4 tayo all over the world as far as shipbuilding productivity is concerned. Number 5 tayo eh. But sino yung involved dito? Most of the the building of new ships are done by our foreign shipbuilders here. Bakit? Dahil mas cheaper yung cost nila in building ships. Our domestic shipbuilders are importing a lot of raw materials, and pag nag-import ka ng raw materials, ang dami mong tax, dami mong bayaran. So the cost of building new ships by our domestic player is much expensive than the foreign players, because lahat ng importation nila, yung mga ship players kasi natin, nandun sa EPSA where when they import raw materials, libre yung tax nila. For our domestic ships, ship builders, hindi eh. Even the ancillary items like engines, navigational equipment, radio communication, all of these are imported by our shipbuilders. And ang problema, mataas yung tax natin. So there should be a study that will elevate or bawasan yung cost of operation ng shipbuilders natin. Ito yung nakasalalay din yan sa MIDP. So kaya, for example, our steel industry is out. Wala tayong steel industry. Kaya kung karamihan ng paggawa ng barko are made of steel. So importante ito. Siguro dapat i-develop din natin yung the ancillary production, the raw material production, so that will make our domestic shipbuilding industry more profitable. Siguro we'll study that aspect. I'm working with Captain Jess Morales and other owners of shipbuilding on how to incentivize them and make them competitive to the I think regardless of sino yung mag-manage dyan, still the issue here will be the same. Ano ba problema ng shipbuilding? We already recognize that. And we have to work into making our shipbuilders very competitive and productive. So yun ang that's how I respond to your answer to your question, Attorney Brent.
Yeah, can I give my comments on that?
Yes, please do, Mark.
Yes. Shipbuilding has always domestic lines. We've always wanted to build ships domestically, but then the incentives that are given to us are given if we buy the ships overseas. If they give VAT exempt, if you buy it from overseas. If you buy local, you're subject to VAT. So, but to us, Administrator Emperdad said all these things about they have to pay for imports of whatever the radar or whatever they put on the ship, which adds to the cost of the vessel. But in doing so, we are actually incentivizing the ship owners to buy overseas, when in fact, as what Attorney Brenda has said, in other countries they want to build their local shipbuilding because it provides jobs, it provides additional economic growth to other sectors like engineering sector, to the metalworks, to the steel industry, and this is something the government has to look at. Why don't you give shipping lines incentives to buy their ships locally? Diba? Instead of giving us incentives to buy it from overseas. There is a economic reason why you want it done, the work done in the country. So that's something that, just a comment on that, because in my previous job, then we were looking at buying some fast craft, but it was just too expensive to buy them locally. It was cheaper to buy them from overseas, but we didn't push through with that for other reasons. Thank you. And could I just give a retort to PPA on some of the replies?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Just one thing, when you were talking about move to shipping commodities to containers, even container handling charges went up. In Tacloban, it was 118 to 119%. I know that price may not have moved as much over the years, but then again, why are you penalizing the industry? Why are you penalizing the shippers and consignees? Shipping lines are going to pass this cost. It's the shippers and consignees in these local ports who are complaining. Thank you.
May
Thank
I
you very
answer?
much.
And I have a rejoinder in that also. Yeah, I just want
Yes,
to correct.
please.
Yeah, I just want to correct the impression that the Port Authority, the PPA, is penalizing the industry, and they're the ones actually. If you recall, they have been clamoring for improvement in services, and I think before we can say that one of the reasons for the PTRMF policy is because the contracts then of cargo handling operators is on a short-term basis, I think 5 years or less than 5 years, which prevented them from, really investing in equipment and others. But we're talking now of contracts valid for 15 years. And there are commitments for KPIs and equipment, which they are bound to deliver during that period and is subject to review. So again, I would like to appeal for the industry to give this policy a chance. It's too early for us to say that that there is no improvement in port terminals. Some of the contracts have yet to be implemented. So when we're able to implement most of the contracts, definitely there would be commensurate improvement in the services to be delivered, because it has always been envisioned that the tariff should be commensurate with the services to be rendered by the port terminal operators. Thank you.
But Attorney Pinky, clearly, if I buy a car and I buy an automatic car, I would pay for that. But we've said long ago, many times, and in the industry it's also said, if it has already improved, then they're willing to pay. But why are they paying when there has been no improvement at all yet? So this is something that, PPA has to be cognizant of. You're asking us to pay for something which is not yet, or the customers to pay for something which is not yet there. Would you buy a car, you pay the price for BMW, but they say, I'll just give you a Toyota first, and there's a KPI that we will provide a BMW at some point in time. And if it doesn't, sorry, but we'll penalize them. But you're already paying, right? Thank you.
So, I think it's debatable for us to, the statement that there is no improvement yet, because once the terminal operator implements the tariff, there is the requirement that there should be changes, there should be improvements from what the practice or the service prior to the award of the contract. And maybe it should also be emphasized that some of the equipment cannot be immediately deployed on first day, but there should be changes for, there should be considerable improvements already, maybe in terms of the number of people to be employed to make, the turnaround of the vessel faster and such other matters. Perhaps if I may suggest, if there are really valid complaints for the industry to put forward these complaints, and for PPA really to validate and to look into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Pinky. We appreciate all your comments, but it looks like, Conrad, it's about time to bring our ship to port, so to speak. And maybe first, before we go, we'd like to thank again our special partners, AMOSUP and MAAP and Northport, as well as our donors, Peninsula Gulf Marine Services Corporation and Raj and T Marine Services Incorporated, as well as Mr. Rick Tuliel. Thank you very much for your participation. And Conrad, would you like to thank our guest speakers for having spent some time with us and sharing their views and their knowledge with us?
Yes, Attorney De Los Reyes, Mr. Dan Fernan, Administrator of the Marina, Mr. Robert, and Matthew Parco. Thank you very much. We had a very rich discussion, and I'm sure that this will not be the last time we will be exchanging views. So, and maybe 6 months from now, we can exchange views when the Philippine economy has fully recovered and we have a new administration in place. So thank you very much and have a nice day.
Yes, that would be nice.
Thank you very much to all of you.
Yes. So thank you, Mark Pinky, Dan, and Robert, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. With me is Conrad Canarino. We hope you enjoyed the Manila Times online business forum time for the game changer. You all today.
We are optimistic about the direction our industry is going amid the pandemic. Since the beginning, we have proven that we are resilient as a community. And we, together with the government, the private sector, and other stakeholders, are able to work collaboratively to accomplish our goals.
This year has brought us to unexpectedly tough battles at sea. Some dreams have been cancelled and hope has somehow remained stranded. Yet despite these pressing times, we continue to serve with sea of opportunities. We continue to break barriers. We continue to cross the boundaries. And we continue to sail forward. Year 1960, when the selfless service and commitment were initiated by the master seafarer, mariner, and visionary, the late Captain Gregorio S. Oca. It was 60 years ago when Captain Oca established the Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines to champion the welfare and rights of the Filipino seafarers around the globe. In the 6 decades since its inception, AMSUP has grown to become the largest seafarers union in the country, receiving various recognitions in the Philippines and beyond. Anchored in its mission to serve the Filipino seafarers all over the world, AMSUP continues to labor to fight for the social, legal, and moral rights of its members. The organization continues to envision the expansion of health benefits among the members and their families throughout the archipelago through the Seamen's Hospital. Aside from the non-stop modernization program of the hospitals in Cebu, Iloilo, Davao, Dagupan, and Manila, AMSUP continues to provide the well-deserved social and legal benefits among its members through the Provident Fund, Welfare and Mutual Benefit Plan, AMSUP Legal Services, Seamen's Village, Slop Chest, and Sailor's Home. The organization continues to improve not only the services they provide, but also improves the abilities and talents of our seafarers and cadets through the AMSUP Seamen's Training Centers and the Maritime Academy of Asia and the Pacific.
We pay homage to the seafarers who continue to embark on the high seas to provide for their families and to move the world's economy, despite the daunting challenges brought about by the pandemic.
The world may have stopped, but your work continues. You, our dear Filipino seafarers, remain our heroes amid the pandemic. 60 years is more than just a number. It is indeed the face of every Filipino seafarer over the years. 60 years may have been full of accomplishments of unstoppable commitment and services. But more than the achievements is your story. Stories that are more worthy than diamonds and gold combined.
To our members and all the seafarers across the world, we at AMSUP appreciate and value you. We are grateful for you and the work you do, your hard work and sacrifice. As we reach our 60th year since our founder, Captain Gregorio Oca, established AMSUP, we still uphold our mission to serve you and to champion your rights and welfare.
Nais ko rin magpasalamat sa ating mga magdalagat, sa ating mga membro. Napakalaking tulong po dahil sa galing ninyo ay tayo ngayon ang palaging hinahanap ng mga ship owners at ating mga social partners. Let us pledge that we will continue giving the best that we can to ensure that AMOSUP will continue to grow and continue to develop and continue to ensure that our economy and the nation will improve.
We are more than an organization. We are family. Our commitment to you continues beyond our mission and vision. May we all come out stronger and sail forward in hope and solidarity after this adversity.
Dito sa AMOSUP, walang humpay ang pagkilala at pasasalamat sa bawat marinero at marinerang Pilipino. Mabuhay ang Pilipinong mandaragat.
Ang inyong kwento ang nagpapatibay sa ating organisasyon. Ang inyong tagumpay ay aming inspirasyon. Kayo ang AMOSUP. Happy 60th anniversary, Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines. Isang malaking pagkilala at pasasalamat sa bawat Pilipinong mandaragat.
Sign up for a year and pay less than 71 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/digital to get your free 30 days of the Manila Times Digital Edition.